taking a hard stand, kind of pointing your finger approach and saying they're wrong, that's not going to do it.
Yeah.
They have to come upon the realization themselves that they're in a predicament that is, not what they understand it to be.
And many of these kids don't have a reference point too. Like, we're lucky because we grew up in an era between the 80s to now, right? Mm-hmm. Like mid 70s, 80s coming into now, right? Mm-hmm. So like we have a perspective of the world from how it transitioned to this point, whereas the kids who are being born now, because I was thinking about that the other day, I was like, how are these kids falling for this stuff? How are they getting duped? And I'm like, oh, I get it. It's like they didn't go through what we saw. They're coming into the world at this juncture and being told, like, you're screwed up, you're not right, something's wrong with you, we're here to save you. Mm-hmm. And it's a scary time for a kid when like you said earlier, how you had all these emotions and trying to figure stuff out. Whereas from the era we kind of grew up in, it was kind of like, go outside and play, figure this out, suck it up. Mm-hmm. What was the other things? Like, yes, that's normal what you're going through. You're going to feel these things. Hey, or like it was even talked about, well, yeah, when I was in college, I experimented. You've heard people say that shit. Mm-hmm. Like, it was just, people understood like it was a normal part of society for people to figure themselves out. So you just kind of knew, yeah, they're young, they're going through some stuff. And we had support systems in place to try and help people who were, suicidal and all this stuff. And yeah, we understood that mental illness, but that goes back to another point, which is mental illness is more of an issue with our culture, our society, what we value, what our priorities are. And so we also, they fed upon it. They fed upon something that's inherent in all societies and weaponized it almost to make it into this thing that's going to lead people down a path of, hey, goodbye, you have a country no more, almost taking the human being back to a Pavlovian dog-like.
Oh, completely.
Behavior.
Oh, yeah.
They're animalistic. They can't even be a human anymore.
Yep. Keep people in their lower energy centers of survival and carnal desires and materialism instead of, letting people wake up and see the
That's not left
piece.
To me. That doesn't feel lefty. That's what I was trying to say earlier. It's like all this area that they dwell in, this space of how they convey themselves and the message they're sending and this identity politics and the virtue signaling, it doesn't feel lefty to me. Like, what felt lefty for me was like having consciousness about the environment and your effect on it, the spiritual, seeking out meditation and yoga and like traveling to India and going to figure yourself. Like, that's what I used to think the lefty mindset was, like tree hugging, trying to be a vegetarian, sustainable living, making sure everybody has access to healthcare and education.
All the modern kind of progressive thought about how to live. Like, the way I look at it is you've got conservatism and liberalism. Conservatism says, let's stick to what we know.
Right.
Let's not do anything too radical and make small incremental change. And leftism or liberalism is, let's try new shit.
Right.
And so you need to have a proper balance of those things.
Just what I thought we had.
Yeah. And so it's really not leftism or liberalism, but it's masquerading as that. It's really just carrying the label of it, but it's really much just, I don't even know what to call it, just evil.
That's the same problem I'm having. It's
evil.
like, I don't know what to label that other than like some kind of virus that's infecting brains or minds and making people act irrational.
Well, it is, they do want to make, it's like they're trying to, or it's a movement that seems to be heading towards all of society being organized and centered around an AI God rather than the God that is within everyone.
So I have a theory.
So they're taking the place of God, really.
You got it.
Yeah. Everybody really needs God more than anything right now. And not the religious type, in the religious context, but in the context that you are the universe and the source of everything is from within you, and we can tap into that and we can live a free, fulfilled life that is not tossed about like a ship without a sail in rocky waters, like, people's lives don't have a real compass. That's because we're not recognizing that we are the source of goodness. We are the source of all kind of power and balance and stillness. It's all within us. And they've got everybody trying to go outside of themselves for fulfillment when there is no fulfillment outside of ourselves. It's only more and more engagement and entanglement with Maya. Like, I was listening to YouTube this morning, some Hindu teacher was talking about dharma versus moksha. And so dharma is when you get engaged in the world and you get into a pattern and a track in the Maya, and it sets your course, and you're entangled in that course, and you go down that road, and there's no stopping it. And you can try to go to the right and the left, but your dharma, the inertia of everything that you're entangled with, has you going in this direction. And that includes historical and familial kind of inertia, where my family's coming from and all our karma together. But that's all operating within the Maya, within the physical universe. Whereas we can choose not to do that and experience, the ability to create from our chit, and to be able to forge a new path and to be able to ritam whatever it is that we want, not based on our family lineage or the momentum that we have in the real world, but whatever our heart's desire is. And if we can strike hard with our mind, our clarity of a mental vision, and strike that with the magnetism of our heart and belief in our own vision onto the unified field, that creates life. That creates what we want. And so that's what has been hidden from the Bible and from everything, is that ability for mankind to take the reins of creation into their hands.
And that, ladies and gentlemen, is a real lefty. In case you didn't see one, that's one. But that's a perfect display of what I see in my head of what a person who's progressive or a leftist would think like. Is that way, right? But what we see now is not that. It's just destructive mindset, and as you say, seeking outwardly gratification outside yourself. And this is another reason why our founding fathers, you made a good point in what you said when you said that people are seeking the God outside rather than the God within, which is how our country was founded. So I want people to understand this is a very tricky subject, because the minute you say God, you get all your what do you call these people, agnostics and atheists jumping on the line and saying, oh, well, this guy is religion, and religion was the cause that men were killed for thousands of years, and the Islamic wars, and we're not talking about the consequences of corrupt information about this, right? Because throughout history of mankind, human beings have taken knowledge and information, skewed it and twisted it, and used it to achieve goals of empowerment and acquisition of land, countries, enslavement, killing people. So you can't take the fact that this understanding or this idea of God and tie it into all the shit that was used by mankind to get the history we have, right? So I think people in their minds need to understand that when we get ready to talk about God, we're speaking about a state of mind, a way of being, and sort of like the understanding that there's something beyond you in that essence or that sense, I'm guessing.
Well, I see it. I will relate it to both a personal God and also the impersonal kind of unified field that you people from Fairfield will know about. The unified field of consciousness, the unified field of physics. So all of physics is a cascade of vibrations and sound that intersect with each other and create what appears to be solid mass, but it's not. It's all just frequency and sound. If you go deeper and
Tesla
deeper
says,
and deeper.
there's a quote by Tesla where he says that, right? Like, if you figure out the whole universe's frequency, you've unlocked or untapped, what is it?
The
secrets to the universe, right?
Yeah,
but it's true. Yeah.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
And so, if we think of where do our thoughts come from,
frequency.
There's only one source of everything.
Mm.
There's not multiple sources of everything. There's only one source.
Right.
There can only be one source. And because of the order that exists in the way those sounds have caused creation to come about, that leads me to believe that there's order and intelligence within that one source of the physical universe. Like the physical universe is, we think that's all it is. Like in modern physics, the physical universe is really kind of all that there really is. But from quantum physics, or from that different perspective where you're looking at, the physical universe is really just kind of a precipitate of the source. Like an ice crystal forms in water and becomes a solid. It precipitates.
Mm-hmm.
So this physical universe is not unlike a crystallized version of the liquid.
Right. It's deep, man.
Yeah.
If you can visualize what he's saying, I already did. It's kind of just, this whole world is just a manifestation of the frequency sound coming out of the universe, like, oh, and here we all are commingling and mixing and fighting and building and destroying and creating and all at once.
Beings have the ability
to do all of it.
To be conscious of ourselves.
Correct.
While this is happening, and to contemplate that. And
that's
so
a blessing. That's the God thing right there.
That puts us at the center of the ability at the switchboard to be able to influence that creation, to influence our environment through our state of mind. And I think the mental and the electromagnetic reality of our minds and our heart value together, electromagnetism and consciousness added to that, puts us in a very powerful position to create.
Correct.
Nothing around in the universe that we've seen came before there was a thought about it. It's all because of someone had thoughts about it and then manifest this world, our cars, our phones, everything.
Tetris. By the way, I recommend the movie. You guys should watch it.
I saw your posts.
It was a very good movie, man.
It was a Russian that did that?